Good afternoon. It is around 12 o'clock, and I live in Louisiana, and there's something I want to kind of talk about here. Uh, so I'm going to talk to you. I may make some mistakes in this, but I'm one of the type of people who just like to get the facts out because some things get on my nerves that's going on here, and especially when you're dealing with common sense when it pertains to this COVID-19 or coronavirus, whichever way you decide to call it. Everybody knows what I'm speaking of. It's mostly I want to speak to people in general, and not every one of these is going to be about how it affects African Americans. Just in general, I decided to talk about this because it's something I saw that really, really gets on my nerves. And one of the things that I see is I have a list here, and I'm going to try to go through it. Please excuse me if I look down at the list because this is something I try to get the facts straight instead of talking off of just opinion. So uh, I'm going to label this common sense because I noticed that a lot of people, when it comes to this right here, are not using the common sense. They're mostly reacting off of what they see in the news media, what they see in magazines, or what they see on Facebook, or whatever. Now, what I just saw really surprised me. So I want you to just pay attention and be patient with me on this, please. Okay. I saw a couple of videos where some African American people who were on media actually called the coronavirus an act of racism that is because of racial divide and because of certain things. And I just thought that was just mostly foolishness. And I know I'm gonna run into a lot of flack for this, but I am entitled to my opinion just like you of yours. Uh, One of the main reasons why they say that a lot of African American people are affected by this is because of health and nutrition issues. The stats that I read was very, very shocking. And this is one of the ones that I read. The CDC, the Center for Control and Disease, okay, said that 30% of the cases have been, at least 30% have been African Americans that have gotten this and have died from this. Now, the bad part about this, if you look at 30%, you'd be like, well, 30% is not a big deal. But what I see on my stats right here, it says we are only 13% of the population. One third, that means one third of all the cases here in America, one third of those cases are African American fatalities. One third, when we're only 30% of the population, is a staggering figure. So I like bringing up the problem and then come up with a solution, which I think is a solution. Okay. Now I'm gonna choose one state. I'm gonna choose Wisconsin because there's not a whole lot of information out there on Wisconsin. So I'm just gonna choose one particular state. I live in Louisiana, but I'm gonna choose Wisconsin. Okay. Now what I read on Wisconsin, African American people make up only 6%. Only 6% of the population of Wisconsin. 6%. But it says right here that 40% of the deaths from COVID-19 is African American in a population of only 6%. Only 6%? Really? So my question is why? And I've seen quite a few people that try to explain, these are African American people that try to explain why the African Americans have more cases of fatalities when it comes to COVID-19. And one of the main ones I read was, and I was shocked by this, we don't have time to prepare healthy nutritional meals. The other one was the cost of the food of nutritional meals. We can't afford because we live in under income or poor income, low income societies. The reason why we can't afford the foods that are awarded to most other people. And then the other one was better access to health care and health facilities. And the other one was because of stress, we had our nutrition and our health has gone down. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm going to use a perfect example of this. Okay. All right. I'm going to use a particular item. Okay. One of them is breakfast foods. It says one of the healthiest, most nutritional meals of the day is eating a good, healthy breakfast, right? I go into the store and I actually judged this. I actually looked and I saw that I made a comparison between two different cereals. One cereal was a hot cereal, which is oatmeal. The other cereal, I'll just use this for example, was Fruit Loops. Do you know if you get a big container a big container of oatmeal, it costs you about $3 and some change. If you buy a big family size box of the Fruit Loops, it costs you almost the same, probably a little bit more, almost $4, maybe give or take, depending on where you live. It costs almost $4. Well, I thought we can't afford the nutrition. Oatmeal is cheaper than Fruit Loops and all the other sugar cereals on the shelf. Oatmeal's cheaper. Which one is better for your health? You tell me. Now, when you go to most African American houses, which one do you see the most of? You see oatmeal or you see more of the cereals that have a lot of sugar in it? Who made them? Who forced them to make that choice? Okay, so you can easily say, well, I don't like oatmeal. Well, then that's a choice that you made. Don't blame it on racism. In oatmeal, you can add things. I've been eating oatmeal every morning since I was a teenager. Now, oatmeal's not the only product. I just mentioned oatmeal. They got fruits, they got yogurt, they got other stuff. And in my oatmeal, I decided that's up to me. I decided to put other fruits in it, everything else that you want to mix in it to make it taste better. And I'm not saying that I eat no sugar. I'm not trying to say I'm a vegetarian. I'm somebody that eats zero sugar. It's okay to eat a little sugar, a little bit of this every now and then, but I don't go to extremes on it. I do it in moderation. Okay? The two cereals cost almost the same. When you choose one over the other, that's a choice that you made. That has nothing to do with your color of skin. It has nothing to do with anything. You go into the store, you choose to do that, okay? Now, I'm going to use a few more food items because I don't want people thinking like, well, I don't like oatmeal. That's the reason why, okay? So my next one is bread. When you go in the store, you got a choice between pure white bread, bunny bread, or whatever brand that you decide to pick, and you got a choice between Nature's Own or whatever it is. So you got a honey wheat bread, then you got a stone ground wheat bread. The ones that I see are pretty much the same price between the two breads. So this again negates the fact that people saying that being healthy costs too much and we can't afford it. The bunny bread flies off the shelf. The wheat bread sits there. We don't like the wheat bread because we think it's too this and too that, too dry, whatever it is. But the bunny bread is gummy. You can roll it up. We eat most of that. But let's not use economics for the reason why. Because if you really want to use that bread, which is the white bread over the wheat bread, that is your choice. You can't blame anybody else. That is your choice, okay? All right, so I'm going to use several other food items, okay? I'm going to go to fruits and vegetables. What I noticed, and I noticed it very clearly, this is a fact. When on March 15th, we got the word, everybody, let's hunker down. This COVID-19 is coming out and it's more serious than everybody thought it was. Please be careful. And everybody started raiding the stores. I went to Walmart, which is typically a store that a lot of African-American people go into and a lot of everybody go into because it's affordable. You can get everything all in one spot. I go myself, okay? All right. I go there, and because I made it there a little late, all of the potato chip shells, all of that's taken off the shelf. All of the bacon, all of the hot dog packs are gone. Toilet paper, of course, but this is a different subject. All of the junk food, the Little Debbie snacks, totally gone off the shelf. Totally. But in order for me to get there, I walk through one aisle and I'm going through my little bucket and I notice I go through one aisle and there's lemons that are stacked up that are almost falling off the rack because there's so many of them on there. And then I notice that all the vegetables and stuff like that were barely even touched. Barely even touched. They were still on the shelf. You can go there anytime and there's still plenty of bananas and stuff was on the shelf. Why? Why? So we had just as much access. So we don't have access to healthy foods. There was access. They were sitting on the shelf, but we didn't want them because they didn't taste good or whatever else, okay? And that was during a time of need. That was during a time when everybody was worried and everybody was struggling, okay? So I'm going to use another food. Look at fish, for example. Look at fish. With fish is fish. Why is it? And I'm talking this because I want my people to understand. I'm not putting them down. I want them to understand that you have a choice. And let's stop blaming other people. It's 2020. You may not be able to do everything to the exact same level as everybody else, but let's stop blaming others for problems that we bring on ourselves. I look at fish. You got two choices that you can do with fish. I'm sure there's some other ways you can do it, but the main two ways most people prepare fish is they either fry it or you can bake it. That's the main two ways. Why is it we choose to fry fish? And, one of the most popular fishes down here is probably catfish. Why are you frying it? That same fish, you can bake it. So if you talk about economics, it's actually cheaper to bake it. You put it in the pan, you put in a little bit of oil, put some seasoning on it. You deep fry it, you use a whole container of oil in it. You deep fry it and it loses all its nutritional value just about because you just fried and overheated the minerals and nutrients in the fish. I personally don't eat much catfish because it doesn't carry much nutrients, so I don't really fool with it much. But if you're going to eat junk, at least prepare it a better way. And I use this, for example, when you go to church and they have a lot of church dinners, or if somebody's doing a charity and it's church dinners, usually what you have a piece of the bunny bread I just talked about, or some white bread, and you have fried fish. Why can't we bake it? So think about that. The way you live your life is a choice that you make. The fish costs the same whether you bake it or fry it. So how can you blame it on income? Okay? All right, let's try another food. This is another thing I see a lot of. Food that we get from other places. One thing I notice is that we tend to salt our food before we even taste it. I see a lot of that. Not everybody. We salt it. Do you have any salt? We hadn't even tasted it yet. One of the number one factors they say in making us sick from COVID is the fact that a lot of us have high blood pressure, obesity, and poor nutrition, which makes COVID, when you catch it, from what I'm understanding, is it makes it harder to get rid of, harder for your body to fight it because your immune system is weak because you've been feeding too many things into your body that lack in nutritional value. And I'll go to, I live my life as an example. I'm not saying I live and I don't eat no junk. Every night and I eat junk. You know, I'm human. So, but I don't eat it all day. If I try certain foods, I try to eat a better quality stuff. And all I'm just saying is you got to look out for your own self. Us making excuses and blaming this whole thing on racism is not the only way. Now, as far as the medical part of it, and where they say that we have lack of access to quality health care, this is the first access you have to quality health care right here is your nutrition. When your nutrition is well and our society has better nutrition, the less health care you're going to need in the long run. Now, I'm excluding the fact that if you go outside and you get hit by a car, don't go to the doctor. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about there's certain things that you can control. And there's certain things that you see, and I know a lot of us don't like to hear people point it out, but there's certain things that you can see that we can do to make our health a little better. And a lot of times we pass those choices up because the other thing tastes better, it's quicker to prepare, I don't have time, I don't have this, I don't have that. And let's stop making excuses and let's be an example. Let's be an example for our children and for others around us of how we're supposed to change our life. Let's pick something good out of this particular thing that's happening because there's a lot of bad, there's a lot of deaths, there's a lot of loved ones that we lose. And one thing we can do is pass something down to our children and pass something down to people who look up to us of how you take care of your body and your nutrition and how you take care of yourself, which will make you a healthier person, which in return, if you ever catch this virus, not saying that you cannot be seriously ill from it, but your body will be better prepared to fight this and your immune system will be in a better situation. And I want to leave you with that, okay? And I know I have people that disagree, but this is what I've noticed, and I've been living long enough to know that this is a fact. And I know some people don't like hearing it, and I lost a few friends that get mad at me because they think that I'm making excuses, but I'm just stating the facts. And sometimes the facts are a little bit hard to hear. Thank you.